Politics is everywhere because what is politics about? It is about power relations, power dynamics, right?
As citizens, we are all into politics in some way or the other.
Politics is boring, right? What is the interest in politics? Politics is always abstract.
Nationalism and how approach nationalism would essentially shape our view of history.
Gandhi once said, "You have first to be the change that you wish for the world to embrace."
Thought-provoking insights sparking intellectual curiosity. Tune in, transcend the ordinary, and get nuanced.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Is Politics at Odds with Humanities? My name is Dr. Julien, and I'm the head of the Department of Political Science here at the Allen School of Liberal Arts. And I'm also in charge, as well, of politics, or Academic Club of Political Science. I've had the pleasure of working with incredible students over the years, one of whom is joining me today, Sharvesh, a brilliant young mind from the BA Political Science program. Sharvesh is not just an excellent student, but also a dynamic member of our Politics Academic Club of Political Science and also of our film club. Sharvesh contributes to our post-screening discussion with sharp insights. He brings a unique perspective, blending his love for movies with his interest in politics and liberal arts. Welcome, Sharvesh.
Thank you for having me, Professor Julien. That was a rather excellent introduction.
It's my pleasure always, Let's dive in. Let's try to keep this discussion relaxed, conversational, like the debate that we often have in class or with a politics club.
Sure.
So, Sharvesh, let's start the light, let's break the ice. And in order to help our audience know you better, I would like to ask you a slightly personal question. As a liberal arts student, Sharvesh, do you think that you are now better equipped to understand the complexities of today's politics?
Yes, I would certainly agree with that statement because as a liberal arts student, what I look is the intersectionality between different disciplines. So what I look in an university setting of a liberal arts curriculum is that we would want multiple perspectives where we would want students to come forward with their academic foot in different disciplines and to sort of discuss and debate multiple things, sort of have a dialectical conversation about different things. And for me as a political science student, I would look forward to different inputs from various other disciplines as a liberal arts student, from philosophy or from writing or from literature and so on, so that I can develop a diverse understanding of everything, then which also makes me sort of equipped to understand things better and fathom out things better in a more eclectic, in a more articulate way. I think that experience here at Alliance has fairly helped me to do this job. And I would say that for a student of political science, the liberal arts are very much important to learn something in a more nuanced way, as much as political science itself is. So I would say in that sense, it has equipped me in a fairly intriguing way.
That's very interesting what you are talking about, because actually, if you study political science outside of the framework of liberal arts, you can become a very proficient professional. But maybe you are not going to become at the same time a very multi-dimensional individual. And as you have perfectly mentioned, I believe that what we bring here at the Alliance School of Liberal Arts is that we not only build professionals, but we also try to make active citizens. Can you maybe share with our audience what is your experience as a growing citizen that you have developed on our campus?
So as citizens, we are all into politics in some way or the other. Whether you complain about the bumpy roads at your street, or whether you engage in an interesting conversation with your friend about the political shifts or political dynamics that is going on in your state, or whether you are increasingly inclined towards a political ideology, or whether you may be a partisan as well. But the ultimate thing is that we as citizens, we all have some say in politics. And I think understanding the fundamental concepts rather than having a superfluous on the surface narrative of what politics is helps us to understand things better in a more creative way. And that liberal arts as a framework helps us as students of political science to do in a much better way, as I was mentioning earlier. And because we have different diverse perspectives to what we are approaching to, we can ultimately bring in different analysis from different disciplines. And as a citizen, it makes us understand simply the state of affairs around us better. So I think in that respect, it would equip us as citizens, and it would equip us to see the things around us more in a more different way, or in a more rational way in that sense.
I totally agree with you. I believe that we often discuss this topic in the classroom, but politics is everywhere, because what is politics about? It is about power relations, power dynamics, right? And we can find power dynamics at every level of society, from the family, depending on the generation, depending on gender, depending on social background as well. And we can find also power relations in international affairs. And I believe that when you study political science within the framework of liberal arts, you have this exposure to power dynamics at every step, including on the campus, because even on any campus, you have power structures, you have power dynamics. It's important to be able to identify them, to understand them. And I believe that as future, current, and future citizens, our students in political science here at Alliance, they are equipped in becoming, I would say, socially and politically engaged in the future. And they are going to strive for creating a better country and to help our democracy to progress. And maybe, Sharvesh, you could give to our audience some example of the activity that we conduct with a batch of political science, with a politics academic club, in order to try to foster this interest in democracy and in debates on the campus.
So our experience as students from a liberal arts curriculum towards political science has been very intriguing, in the sense that in most universities, what happened in India, it is the one-way lecture, or it is just the professor narrating, giving notes, and sort of stuffing their minds with essays and paperworks and so on. But what we do here alternatively is we engaged in different activities, we engaged in dialectic conversations with one another. We constantly put forth the ideas to debate, because we as students also have political inclinings, we also have differing positions and ideologies on something. And we often, in a classroom setting, what is essential is you come together as students to discuss things that are conflicting. I think that this discussion is very essential when you ultimately try to learn something. And our experience here, because we have professors like you who has been a guide to us in these interactions that we've had all these times, and our experience at film club, because sometimes we screen a movie that is politically charging, and we've had students discuss and debate about it, and that has also been a fairly good experience for a student here, to bringing different perspectives from other disciplines as well. Because ultimately, when you have a political ground to it, you see filmmaking differently. You see different aspects of how a story is written, and how it is being conceived into a film. So you start seeing things differently in a more nuanced way, in a way that is more political. So because when you see a film, ultimately, then you can see you'll start observing the role of gender, or you will start observing the role of people with different identities and so on. So in that sense, political science has given us a fairly good ground to engage in the process of film watching. And apart from that, our activities in the the political science club of our university has also been very intriguing, in the sense that we've had different people to come forward and discuss about different things, like modern concepts like intersectionality, and that has been a very helpful thing for a student. And we've also planned similar activities in the near future. I hope they fall in the right place.
What you are talking about is exactly what we call empowerment. And I believe that empowering students is one of our core missions of the Department of Political Science, because very often when you are 16, 17, even 18 years old, or even later sometimes, you tend to believe that actually you don't have a voice. And you are nobody to have an opinion, nobody to enter in the cultural war or whatever in order to defend your position. But gradually we try to make our students understand and realize that their voice matters. And they are individual. They are not only a sister, a brother, a daughter, a son. They are unique individuals with a voice, with ideas, with a personality, and it is important to learn how to craft the right arguments in order to support, to win a discussion, an argument, and to advance a cause, something which matters for them. And what Sharvesh was mentioning, it is exactly the mission, the empowering mission that we set up for ourselves in liberal arts, especially in the Department of Political Science, because we would like our students to realize that they can be a driving force for change. For example, a few days ago, Sharvesh has conducted a podcast with a famous intellectual. Maybe he will tell you a little more about that. And it is just an example of a horizontality that we try to bring in order to involve students in the process. Students can write research papers, students can organize podcasts, organize lectures, students can speak, I would say, at an equal level with experts, professors, international specialists as well, without feeling that they are demeaned or they are not legitimate to interact with such influential and professional people.
Yes, that in that setting, we recently recorded a podcast with famous intellectual historian of India called Anirudh Kanisetti. So he has written his debut book, which has won a very famous accolade literary award in India. And what we tried to do in the podcast is that we tried to bring out diverse perspectives of intersectionality between politics and history. So we were talking about concepts like nationalism and how approach to nationalism would essentially shape our view of history, and concepts like how power dynamics influences history, and often controversial and debated concepts like secularism playing a role in history. So as we understand these fundamental concepts, because understanding politics is not just understanding the terms, it is also about understanding the process. Because when politics is about provoking the right questions, it is also about how you provoke those right questions. So you will also need to understand a better framework of how these fundamental things are approached to politics. So we tried to do that in that podcast, and we have tried to gain a better understanding of how these questions are approached. And because we ultimately know what is history and how politics has a say in history, the way we approach things, the role of gender and the role of power, and everything has a retrospective angle to it. And we've managed to bring out different perspectives from different people. And Anirudh Kanisetti is one of those people whom we've had a fairly intellectual discussion and dialectic conversation with. So in that setting, it is enriching for us to know how this works, and how this modern concept of intersectionality plays a vital role in understanding the politics that goes on around us.
I like the way how you take initiative. I wasn't invited for this podcast, right? So it was a student-led initiative, and it shows that students can take the initiative, can conduct projects, and can find their own way on the campus, and also within the department, within the school. Organizing podcasts, organizing workshops, we had a meme contest not a long time ago. We had a lot of fun also exploring John Rawls' theories based on the veil of ignorance. And it's a way for students to empower themselves and to go beyond, I would say, their own expectation, and to dig into their inner selves, and to realize that they can also actually, lead a session, conduct a workshop, and have professionals, have faculty in the audience who are going to sit, listen to them, and ask them questions, right? And what you were mentioning also is extremely important, this idea of intersectionality, because and I would say it's a faculty in political science that say that politics is boring, right? What is the interest in politics? Politics is always abstract, so always, something that you can't really represent as tangible, right? So analyzing politics from a perspective, from a viewpoint of media, arts, psychology, bring, I would say, some kind of direct problem-solving approach to these questions. Because if you think only in politics in terms of learning by heart the Constitution, that's good if you know the Constitution, of course. But if you can apply what you have learned in the classroom in a concrete, direct way on the campus, taking part in volunteering activities for an NGO, for example, is even better. So this idea of how to switch from theory to practice is essential, I believe. And what we learn in the classroom in political science should help us to identify power dynamics, not only in daily life, but also in movies, in society, in simple practice like eating, like food. Eating is never an innocent process, right? Very often, mothers are going to cook while our father and brothers are going to eat their lunch or dinner, and maybe even not wash the dishes at the end, right? So it shows some kind of power structure, power relation within the families. And even in very simple daily actions like this, we can identify power relations. And I believe that political science help us for this reason, not only, I would say, to become expert in a specific field, but also to become better version of ourselves, being empowered, being also probably more empathetic, to more able to listen to others and to develop multiple approach to problems. Because as Sharvesh was mentioning, when you watch a movie about gender discrimination, for example, you can be a woman and feel concerned. You can be also a man and feel concerned, right? Feminism is not only for women, after all, it's also for men. You can be a foreigner such as me and feel concerned by the social, cultural problem that we can have in India or in some other countries. And I believe that political science brings this multiple perspective on a broad range of issues. I think also, Sharvesh, please tell me if you agree with me that it also helps you to develop some kind of international exposure, because when you approach problem from different perspective, not only from nation but also international perspective, it broadens your I would say your horizon, right?
Yes, I would like to agree with that statement, partly because we know how settings fairly internationally operate today, because everything is becoming so interconnected these days and things are very much integrated. And whatever you're learning today must also be very much relevant to what is happening in a faraway place like the Western world. And so in that sense, you need to constantly understand how this intersectionality and the role of integrating of different ideas plays a very crucial role when we approach the international aspect of political science. And I would say that partly because whatever we learn in political science should be to put to test in the society. Society is the ultimate platform where we put things that we learned here in a classroom setting to test. So I think when society itself is becoming more interconnected because of extreme unprecedented globalization and unprecedented migration, and we have so many other global issues today which are not just which are moving away from the traditional conception of political science, because politics in a classical conception was about the study of state, or much later it was more about the study of power. So power theorists would only tell something about something going flexible between the state and how power dynamics is shifting. But today power is everywhere, so it has ebbed down everywhere, and we can see how power is more horizontal and it is more structural at the same time. And when in an international setting, when things are getting more interconnected, power also becomes more interconnected. So you only study not about your state, but you also study about a state which is very far away. So partly because whatever we study here is also relevant there, and because we bring in the type of intersectionality that we have today in our learning in our curriculum, because when we study about gender, the concept itself is international, because it might differ according to different regions, but the entire concept in totality itself is international, because the role of gender can be different in the States, and the role of gender can be different in India. But when we study it from a zoomed out vantage point, we are getting to know how it works or how it operates differently in an international setting. So I would say our approach as to political science was zoomed out and from the international vantage point would help us to know how these things are very much interconnected, and how they would, because things are hastening up these days, because you have unprecedented accessible knowledge, and every citizen has his or her own way of accessing knowledge these days, which was totally unprecedented, and we have unprecedented amount of data everywhere. So in that sense, we have to have an essential zoomed out international understanding of how politics works.
It was very interesting what you mentioned, and I would like our audience to pay attention to the words of Sharvesh, because what he was highlighting, it is typically what we call skills. And when you study liberal arts, what matters after all, it is skills. It is not really what kind of profession you are going to embrace in the future, because we live in a world where we are all highly integrated, highly interconnected with different culture, different people, different nations. And tomorrow you can be a journalist. The day after tomorrow you will have to reinvent yourself, because with the rise of AI, maybe in your specific field as a journalist, you will become obsolete, right? So what matters the most is the skills that you are able to develop. And this is why Sharvesh has perfectly highlighted the importance of understanding these global dynamics, because we all face international global issues such as environmental crisis, such as gender discriminations, sexual discriminations as well. And there are a lot of issues which are shared between many countries around the world. And you can ambition to become a president of the world or a prime minister of India in order to solve these issues. But I would say that it starts with small steps. Like Gandhi once said, you have first to be the change that you wish for the world to embrace, right? So while studying political science at Alliance University, we try to craft specific skills that help our students to be engaged, active citizens, and I would say game changer, right? They are going to be the force to shape our future. They are going to take initiative, like Sharvesh. They are going to think globally, nationally, also obviously, but also globally from multiple perspectives. And they are going to be able to potentially embrace a broad range of careers. They can become diplomats. I know that Sharvesh ambition to work for the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the future. They can also work for NGO. They can also work for as journalists for the media industry. They can work in companies, in risk analysis, for example. And I believe it is important to focus first on skills and later, second way on a specific profession. Because you can change your profession, but you can't change your skill. The skill that you craft, they are here with you for the rest of your life, right? Yeah. How would you explain to our audience what kind of skills you have developed while studying political science at the School of Liberal Arts?
So I would attribute all the skills that I have learned partly to the foundational curriculum of liberal arts, because when I had my electives in the first sem, I opted for history of economic thought and history of political thought. And while the same time I was doing a philosophical elective called art versus science. So while I study about concepts like gender, concepts like power, or concepts like state and justice, using philosophy, I was also able to question the concept at the right pace or the right way. I was essentially able to give a structure to how these concepts must also be questioned at the same time when we try to understand these concepts. So that is an essential skill that would be required for any student of political science, and the kind of interdisciplinary approach and the learning that we draw from them is very essential to understanding political science. Because career, obviously, you can opt up for any career. There are multiple careers that this excellent discipline gives you. But from a university setting, from a point of your life where you are primarily learning things, primarily building perspective on things, you should probably focus more on as you mentioned, students should probably be focusing more on the skills that he or she is trying to develop. And here, with a multidisciplinary approach, we provide it is more like a plate where you have different dishes and you can taste each dish and you can go for the one which you like. So in that sense, I was able to draw from economics, I was able to draw from philosophy, and even a common elective called creative writing, because I also had creative writing where, because you learn so many wide concepts and so many theories, but ultimately if you are cultivating the skill to properly write it down, or probably make it more in an engaging narrative or in an engaging reading setting, then you can land up in a publishing house. So in that sense, at the time when in your educational life, when you are learning something, it is essential to build up different skills that maybe I would attribute this to liberal arts, because that is what I have been doing here. And I would say for any student who aspires to study political science from this perspective, it would be very much essential to do that, as you pointed out. And apart from building a good career, it also gives you helps you to draw from different perspectives, so that you can make your propositions better. You can have a more precise understanding of things. At least you can move closer to precision. So in that sense, different skills obviously paves way to for a student to equip themselves better.
I believe that Sharvesh has developed a problem-solving approach. He has explained to you, to the audience, how you can find assets while studying political science in order to build a career, in order to become a better version of yourself, in order to challenge your certainties as well, and in order to make your own voice heard, to craft and then to share your own voice. And along with that, also we can mention, which is for me as a scholar in political science, maybe the most important, leadership. it is not anyone who can step up, take the lead, take initiative in order to organize podcasts, organize workshop, organize session, in order to sit in front of a camera and speak to a professor with confidence, with self-confidence, with conviction, with ideas, with argumentative skills, and who can also make us listen to him and follow his lead, follow his way. So I believe that, Sharvesh, you show very well how our Department of Political Science is working, how it is empowering students step by step and helping them to become, I would say, asset for our country in the close future. Because I believe that you want someday to work for our Indian nation. And can you explain us how we can combine here at Alliance University some kind of patriotism, if I may say, the desire to make our country a better place, a more democratic environment, because we can always do better, right, collectively, and how we help you to shape this path.
What do you mean by patriotism? Essentially, you bring in different plural views. You give importance to diversity and pluralism and so on. Partly because that is what we essentially do in our classroom, because we not only see ideologies as some sort of football teams where you sort of cheer for one ideology and sort of spew venom or spew rivalry towards the other ideology. They are not football teams. They are something that we need to consciously think and develop. We consciously develop through a rational discourse, and we have been doing that in a better way. And I think with that sense of understanding of what ideologies are and different ideologies placed before us, we can approach plurality, or we can approach diversity with a more clear view, and draw something from it to get more close to patriotism. Because when we talk about the Indian patriotism, we also have to talk about the left, we also have to talk about the right, we also have to talk about the center. So it is more about bringing in different views together, and it is not fairly nationalistic, because you don't sort of treat one group as inferior and the other group as superior. So you place everyone in a horizontal equal balance. In that setting, I can draw parallels subjectively between what we do inside a classroom and what I seek from a nation. Because I seek plurality, I seek diversity, I want multiple ideologies to come forward and sort of engage in a more rational discussion, rather than people sort of divided into different camps, as we increasingly see about the polemical polarization that we have today, not just in the Indian context, but even in the West, how different parties are essentially treated as rival camps. I don't think that is a very a proper way to approach politics. And when we talk about patriotism, it is also important and vital to understand the diversity and plurality that we give to different ideologies, and we give to different approaches and perspectives of politics. From a classroom, you can learn this much better, because we teach you everything. We get taught everything. And from that, you can draw parallels between developing patriotism, and you can also be a better citizen. And in that sense, I can justify how I can draw parallels between a classroom and a nation.
When can I vote for you? I want you to run for the election. I'm ready to vote for you. Just in 2 words, Sharvesh, to finish, last question. Can you tell to our audience, because you are very knowledgeable, can you explain to them why it is possible to learn and to grow within a framework of political science, even if you have never studied politics before?
See, we might have not studied politics from a scientific viewpoint, or from a viewpoint of arts, but politics is in our everyday lives. We as I was mentioning earlier, we see multiple concepts playing a very vital role. We might be discussing about a regional party. We might be discussing about the war that is going on in Ukraine, or the genocide that is going on in Gaza, and so many other things. But we essentially have to develop the fundamentals of approaching different perspectives, so that we get a much clearer vantage point, as I was mentioning earlier. So our experience here at Alliance University, I think, has provided for people who have no absolute knowledge about what is political science, what is philosophy, or what is ethics, and concepts like vague, abstract concepts like justice and so on. You can be a student who is curious to know about things, and I think our experience here would rather help you well in understanding concepts better. Next time when you go out of a classroom contemplating, and when you go out to watch the news, you will be more curious to observe things in a more nuanced and in a more better way, which will shape you and hone your skills into perfection, so that you sort of get more diverse understanding of what is going on generally around you, around the world, or in an international setting and so on.
Thank you very much for this wonderful
Thank you. It was
conversation.
my pleasure being here.
Thank you.